If you have a smart home or tech house like us, you might have this conversation with your significant other about why would you buy an additional smart device and what value does it bring. On top of that, you also realize that you start spending a lot more money on electricity. This is where this device comes in. This is a device from Refoss, and it's there to monitor for power usage. And yes, you can buy adapter plugs that can measure power and you can integrate them into your smart home. But some devices in your house are not exactly plugged in. They're already wired directly to your breaker, your lights, your AC, or other devices around your house. So in my case, I actually have monitoring for my server rack and my AC for the server rack to know how much power I'm using up for that. But I still have a big chunk of our electricity being used elsewhere in the house, and I know it's mostly used in AC, but I don't actually know how much electricity it is eating. This device is actually pretty simple to set up, and you can monitor specific rails in your power for the house. Let's just open up and see how it works. The box itself is actually very deceiving. The unit is very small. Once we open it up, we have the little manual, we have the device itself. So this is the controller, and as you can see here, it actually has a DIN rail mount, so it could be mounted right into your breaker. So you literally just mount it like this. It has a little Wi-Fi antenna, it's kind of adjustable ever so slightly. And on top of it, it actually has the reset key as well. On the side, you have 6 connectors, A1, A2, and so on. You just connect the little cables to them. So that's the main device. Then on top of that, we have the actual connectors. So these are called current transformers. They go around the cable that you want to monitor. So inside here, we have the connector that goes into one of these. It snaps in. You can kind of close it in there so it's all not kind of sealed, and you can take it out. And then the device itself. So they're labeled already, which is nice, so you know where to point them in. The device itself just has a little clip, and you put your cable through. So you'd have your cable going through. I'll use this cable as an example for the time being before we get it installed in our breaker. So you have the cable and you have directionality. This is important. This unit, it has directional measuring where if you don't get the right result, you might actually have it just backwards. So then you kind of put the cable through, obviously not this cable, but the actual power cable, and close it down. And now, once this is plugged in into the main controller, it will start tracking electricity going that way. So this is very important to make sure that you're doing it the right way. This should go without saying, but you need to use a qualified electrician to install this for you, because working with high voltage is dangerous, and if you make a mistake, you could get fried. So try to avoid that. Actually going to get a booking done for our electrician to come in and install this for us, and then we can go through and see how this connects to the rest of our system. One other item we have inside the box is the cable, and this is the cable to actually power the device. So one end goes into the device itself, and the other side, depending on what kind of wiring you have, will go and need to be wired into your mains. So it depends how many phase power you have in the house, and all of this is actually covered inside the little booklet, so make sure to pass this to your electrician to install it properly. But basically, it gives you opportunity to determine what power you need and so on. So yeah, actually it's very kind of universally compatible. It supports between 100 and 240 volts, between 50 and 60 hertz, so it should be global. So you should be okay with that. Also something to consider, this device comes with 2-year warranty. Which is a nice little touch, with most devices nowadays being 1 year. 2 years is a nice bit of reassurance. What's nice about this particular device, it doesn't actually cut into any cables. So you're not actually cutting any cables, you're just clipping around them, which is nice. Also, this unit is actually designed to use on its own without a need for an internet connection. It has local recording, so it records onto its own little web server. And then you can actually access that using API or just keep it on the web server. So in my example, I want to connect this over to Home Assistant to keep the tracking. But if you don't use Home Assistant, you can use the device itself. So as long as you say an IP address, you can connect to it, create your login and manage it there. Or what you can do is actually use the cloud system, which can store up to 5 years of data. And luckily, there is no subscriptions for that. All you need to do is just create an account. To set it up, there's 2 different ways. You can connect this directly to your network, or you can connect via the app, and then using the app connected to a network. For that, you will need to register an account, to do the initial setup. I'm going to get the electrician in and set this up, and then we can start looking into our stats.
So now that the electrician's been here, everything is wired in, and we can finally see what this thing actually does once it's running. The first step after powering up is the initial setup through the Refoss app. From there, you can rename the device and, more importantly, rename each individual channel. Since this unit supports 6 monitoring rails, labeling them properly makes a big difference later. One thing that I really like here is the ability to merge channels as well. So if you have multiple circuits feeding in the same room, like lights and power outlets, you can group them together and track the total consumption for that area. It makes the data a lot easier to understand. Inside the app, you can also enable consumption alerts, so if your circuit hits consumption target, you can get notification. This can be useful not just for saving energy, but also for spotting potential problems early. Another helpful feature is the electricity cost calculation. Once you input your electricity rates, the app can estimate how much each circuit is costing you over time. That's probably one of the easiest ways to figure out where your electrical bill actually is going. Now, if you prefer something a little bit more advanced, the device also has a built-in web interface. Once logged in, the first thing I did was assign a unit with a static IP address via my router, but you can do this via the app as well. That way, it always stays in the same place on the network, which makes it easier to integrate it into other systems later on. When the electrician first installed the current transformers, they ended up measuring power in the wrong direction. Instead of having to physically move the clamps, you can simply reverse the measurement direction or adjust the circuit factor inside the web interface, much easier than getting an electrician back. I would also recommend password protecting the device, and once everything is confirmed as working correctly, clearing out earlier recorded data. That way you can start with a clean data set and accurate measurements. Another good security step is disabling the unit's built-in access point after setup. It's useful during installation, but there's no real reason to have it broadcasting once the device is connected to your network. Something I didn't expect to see here is a multi-Wi-Fi support with roaming. That means the monitor can connect to more than one wireless network and switch between them if needed. In larger homes or buildings with multiple access points, that can make the connection much more reliable. One limitation though, the web interface doesn't include electricity cost calculations or notifications. Those features are currently only available in the mobile app. Now, of course, since this is a tech channel, the next logical step is to integrate into Home Assistant. This part is actually pretty simple. There is a HACS integration available. Once installed, you just enter the IP address and the login details for the device. Immediately after that, all 6 channels appear as sensors inside Home Assistant with their power and energy readings. From there, the possibilities really open up. You can build your own dashboards to visualize usage over time, create automations, or even trigger alerts if certain circuits exceed specific power threshold. For example, if the AC suddenly starts pulling far more power than normal, that might indicate something needs servicing. Or if you're running Home Lab, you can track exactly how much electricity your servers are consuming over time. For me, I actually already have that tracked via TP-Link plug, but I've started tracking other circuits like ACs and lights for my house. After running this for a while, what becomes really interesting isn't just the live readings, it's the patterns. You start seeing how different parts of the house behave throughout the day, which devices are constantly drawing power, and where your biggest energy costs are actually coming from. And sometimes the results are rather surprising. The devices you barely think about can end up being responsible for a big chunk of your electricity usage. Overall, the Refoss EM06P turned out to be a surprisingly powerful little device. For installation, I really recommend using an electrician, but once it's in place, it gives you a level of visibility for your home energy usage that most people simply don't have. The ability to monitor multiple circuits, access the data locally, integrate into Home Assistant, and even calculate energy costs makes it a really useful tool if you're serious about understanding where your energy is going. It's one of those devices that doesn't really look that exciting at first, but once you start seeing the data, it becomes surprisingly addictive. And who knows, you might even find a few places to save some money along the way. If you'd like to learn more about the Refoss Smart Energy Monitor, check out the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.